Don't get in the car!" The scream tore through the quiet morning, sharp enough to make Marcus Wellington freeze with his hand on the door handle of his Tesla. The voice came from a girl, no older than 12, sprinting barefoot across the cold asphalt. Her oversized jacket flapped as she ran, her breath ragged. "Please, sir, don't get in," she shouted again, stopping just short of him. It wasn't her clothes that held Marcus's attention. It was her eyes. Bright, urgent, carrying a sharp intelligence that made him pause. At 45, Marcus hadn't built a global tech empire by being careless. As the founder of Wellington Tech, he had faced rivals, threats, and even clever scams. But this girl was different. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. It was 6:43 a.m. He had slipped out for a confidential meeting. No one should have known where he was. "I saw a man working on your car earlier," the girl said quickly, pointing to the chassis. "He left something under there, with wires. I know how those things work." Marcus almost dismissed her, until he crouched down and saw it. A small black box with a flashing red line, placed with precision. His blood ran cold. "My God," he muttered, stumbling back and pulling out his phone. "How did you know?" The girl shrugged as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. "My name's Zara. I notice things people overlook, especially when they follow patterns." "Patterns?" Marcus repeated, hands trembling as he dialed emergency services. 3 executives, 3 weeks, always early mornings, always luxury cars, always the same hooded man nearby, she said with startling clarity. Then her voice dropped. "The first 2, I wasn't fast enough." Marcus froze. "You're saying Daniel Morrison's Porsche didn't just fail 2 weeks ago? That Sarah Chun's car accident wasn't what they claimed?" Zara nodded, her eyes never leaving his. "You would have been the 3rd. The sirens were already approaching, but Marcus barely heard them. One thought hammered in his head. How did a girl living on the streets know names, routines, and details that even the police hadn't pieced together? "You saved my life," Marcus said quietly. "But who are you really?" Zara tilted her head, studying him as if weighing his worth. Then she asked softly, "Do you remember letting someone go recently? Someone who had ties to you? And to them?" Marcus' chest tightened. "How do you—" "I read, and I watch," Zara interrupted. "Especially when I see the same man planting the same kind of device in the cars of 3 powerful people. That's not random, Mr. Wellington. That's payback." She gave him a small, knowing smile. "The car was just the start. I think all of you made a mistake a long time ago, and now that mistake has come looking for you." For the first time, Marcus realized this wasn't just a child trying to help him. Zara was something else entirely, smarter, sharper, and far more connected than she appeared. And as the flashing lights of the police cars drew closer, one chilling question echoed in his mind. Had she really saved him, or had she simply chosen to let him live? If you're enjoying this story of courage and mystery, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment with your name and where you're watching from, because what Zara revealed next turned justice itself upside down. By the time the police arrived 15 minutes later, Zara was gone, vanished, like smoke carried off by the morning wind. Marcus searched the alleys in desperation, but she had simply dissolved into the shadows of San Francisco, leaving behind only one haunting question. What mistake did the 3 of you make? Hours later, after endless questioning at the precinct, Marcus sat back in his office on the 47th floor, staring out at the glittering skyline. Detective Rodriguez had been blunt. With no trace of the hooded suspect and no sign of the girl, the case would rely on whatever forensics could uncover from the device. "Mr. Wellington?" his assistant Carol interrupted, holding a brown envelope. "This just arrived. The caller insisted it was for your hands only." Marcus tore it open. Inside was a photo. Himself, Daniel Morrison, and Sarah Chun, all in uniform, faces younger, prouder. Beneath was stamped August 15th, 2009, Operation Green Storm. On the back, written neatly by hand, Lieutenant Jackson hasn't forgotten. Neither have I. Marcus felt his stomach drop. 15 years collapsed into the present. Lieutenant Michael Jackson, the officer they had once served under, the man they had betrayed. Carol's voice broke his thoughts. "Sir, are you all right?" He slipped the photo into his desk. "Cancel everything today. And Carol, find me everything you can on a retired Lieutenant Michael Jackson." 2 hours later, she returned with a file that made Marcus's blood run cold. Jackson, now 52, retired after a catastrophic incident in 2009. He had lost a leg and suffered head trauma. While recovering, his wife and daughter had been killed in a car crash. With no family left, he drifted in and out of veteran shelters. But then came Carol's final line. "There's more." Records show he adopted a daughter shortly after, a girl named Zara Jackson. She disappeared from the system at 12. Marcus felt the room spin. Zara, the girl who had saved him, wasn't random. She was Jackson's daughter. That night, sleep was impossible. Memories of Operation Green Storm clawed back. The deals with a private firm, the classified information they'd sold. Jackson had found out. He tried to stop them, so Marcus, Morrison, and Chun framed him as the traitor. The punishment was brutal. Months of imprisonment, torture disguised as interrogation. By the time truth leaked out, Jackson was broken. His reputation destroyed, his career gone, his family lost. At 3:17 a.m., Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" His voice cracked. "Hello, Mr. Wellington." Zara's voice was steady, almost gentle. "I trust you received the photo." "Zara, listen. Where are you? We need to talk." "Oh, we'll talk," she replied. "But first you need to understand. My father spent 15 years preparing me for this. He showed me everything you did, how you buried him, how you stole his honor, how you built your fortune on the ashes of his life." "Zara, we were young," Marcus whispered. "We made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Her voice sharpened. "You destroyed a loyal man. Then you turned his suffering into your empire. Morrison built Streamflow, Chun built Innovate Labs, and you? Wellington Tech, standing tall on lies." Marcus swallowed hard. "Where is your father now?" Silence. Then softly, "He died 6 months ago. Cancer, from the poisons they forced into him in prison. But before he passed, he made me promise one thing." "What promise?" "That I would finish what he started. Morrison and Chun were just the beginning. You, Mr. Wellington, are the endgame." The line went dead. Marcus sat in darkness, realizing the horrifying truth. The 12-year-old girl he thought he had saved was not a bystander. She was the architect of his downfall, and every word, every step she had taken was part of a blueprint written by a man they had underestimated 15 years ago, a man whose shadow had never lifted. Some secrets can be buried, but others? They burn their way back to the surface, carried by the next generation. The next morning, Marcus didn't step foot in his office tower. Instead, he drove to a cramped unit in the Tenderloin district, the kind of place where the blinds stayed shut even during daylight. Inside, he found Detective James Sullivan, ex-FBI, a man with a reputation for untangling vendettas and corporate sabotage. "Let me get this straight," Sullivan said, turning the old military photo in his hands. "A 12-year-old girl orchestrated the downfall of 2 CEOs and spared you? For what? To drag things out?" "She said saving me was just the first step," Marcus admitted, his fingers tapping nervously against the table. "I need to know what comes next." Sullivan leaned back, studying him. "Marcus, this isn't just payback. In her mind, it's justice. And when someone believes they're carrying out justice, they're twice as dangerous." Marcus swallowed. "So what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting you stop reacting and start preparing. She's been building this for years. You've got hours." Across town, 3 blocks away, Zara sat in a dim internet cafe, typing on an aging laptop. Her focus was absolute. In 48 hours, she had created a web of fake profiles, anonymous emails, and seeded whispers on obscure forums. But it wasn't random noise, it was precise. She cited real contract numbers, dropped dates that checked out, and shaped a story too detailed to ignore. Phase 2, she murmured, hitting publish. On a second terminal, she monitored 47 accounts, each one with a unique persona, all pushing variations of the same message. Marcus Wellington had secrets, and the world deserved to know. It was the kind of coordination seen only in political campaigns. Back in Sullivan's office, the detective slid a file across the desk. Look at this. Wellington Tech signed a $50 million Pentagon contract just last month. Security systems for bases. So what? Marcus asked, though his stomach was already sinking. Think about it. If someone wanted to ruin you, what better way than to prove you once sold secrets? Tie that past to your present contracts. Suddenly you're not just disgraced, you're finished, possibly worse. At that moment, Marcus's phone buzzed, an unknown number. The message made his chest tighten. Mr. Wellington, hope you're enjoying your last days with your reputation intact. P.S. Check Twitter, Wellington Trader. With trembling fingers, Marcus opened the app. Thousands of posts, some with documents that looked chillingly authentic, already painting him as the villain. How did she move this fast? He whispered. Sullivan shook his head. You're not up against a kid, Marcus. You're up against the daughter of a man who spent 15 years teaching her every page of his playbook. Information warfare, narrative control, systematic destruction. By afternoon, Marcus made a desperate call. Carol, he said, set up an urgent board meeting. No excuses. 2 hours later, he faced 5 men around a long oak table, their faces filled with unease. He placed the military photo in the center. Gentlemen, Marcus began, steadying his breath, what I'm about to tell you will shake the foundation of this company. 15 years ago, I made choices, and now those choices are coming for us. He told them everything. Operation Greenstorm, the betrayal of Lieutenant Jackson, the falsified records, the truth that had been buried. When he finished, silence smothered the room. Finally, David Chun, the CFO, spoke. Jesus, Marcus, are you telling us this entire company was built on the fallout of that? Marcus clenched his jaw. I'm telling you I made unforgivable mistakes, but if we don't face them now, we lose everything. Our company, our reputations, our lives as we know them. As Marcus finally confessed the truth to his stunned board, Zara sat calmly in a nearby park, tossing crumbs to pigeons. Her phone buzzed with 847 notifications, journalists begging for interviews, activists praising the mysterious whistleblower, politicians calling for inquiries. Dad always said the truth finds a way out, she whispered, watching Marcus through the glass of Wellington Tech's towering headquarters. He just forgot to mention, sometimes it needs a little help. But while Zara celebrated, Marcus was making a move she hadn't predicted. By evening, a shocking press release hit the wires. Wellington Tech Corp. announces a $100 million fund for families of veterans wronged by the system. The fund would be independently managed, and the very first case to be investigated, Lieutenant Michael Jackson. The internet exploded. Within hours, our veteran justice rivaled our Wellington Trader on trending charts. Zara blinked at her screen, rereading the announcement 3 times. Marcus hadn't denied anything. He had flipped her attack into a weapon for redemption. And worse, he was gaining sympathy. Smart, very smart, she muttered, slamming her laptop shut. For the first time, Marcus had rattled her. Her father had trained her for denials, for legal counterattacks, even for threats, but not for this. Marcus had turned her revenge into his opportunity. Still, Zara reminded herself of her father's final days, the broken man who had begged her to finish what he started. Her doubt hardened into steel. If Marcus thought $100 million could buy back the past, he was gravely mistaken. 3 days later, Marcus woke to 127 missed calls. His phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Carol, his assistant, sobbed into the line. "Mr. Wellington, you need to turn on the news. It's bad." Marcus grabbed the remote. CNN was live outside Wellington Tech's headquarters. "In a shocking twist," the anchor declared, "newly leaked files suggest the $100 million Veterans Fund is being financed with money siphoned from fraudulent military contracts." Marcus's pulse spiked. "That's impossible." But then the screen filled with evidence. Bank transfers with his signature, internal emails implicating Wellington Tech, and worst of all, an audio recording of a board meeting. His own voice, admitting to using military connections to secure contracts. The phone rang again. Detective Sullivan. His tone was grim. "Marcus, listen to me. You need to leave, right now. The Bureau is on its way with a warrant." "Those files are fake. That recording—" "It doesn't matter," Sullivan cut him off. "They look real, too real. Whoever's behind this planned every detail." Marcus's phone buzzed with another message from Zara. "Congratulations on the fund, Mr. Wellington. My father would be proud. P.S. Check Twitter." His hands shook as he opened the app. Wellington fraud was #1 worldwide. Millions of posts dissected the evidence. Old photos of Marcus dining in luxury restaurants were plastered everywhere, now rebranded as proof of his double life. And then it hit him. Zara hadn't just exposed him, she had forced him to trap himself. His proud redemption project had been twisted into the final proof of his corruption. "My God," Marcus whispered, "she didn't just want to destroy me, she wanted me to destroy myself." At 10:47 a.m., federal agents stormed his penthouse. By 11:15, Marcus Wellington was led out in handcuffs through the front doors of Wellington Tech, as hundreds of cameras captured every second. At 11:30 a.m., the Pentagon canceled Wellington Tech's $50 million contract and announced a full-scale criminal investigation. By noon, Zara sat in a quiet cafe, watching Marcus being led away in cuffs on live television. But instead of the triumph she had imagined, she felt only a heavy sadness. After a long pause, she picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in months. "Detective Rodriguez, this is Zara Jackson. I have information about the Wellington case you'll want to hear." An hour later, Zara was in an interrogation room, not as a suspect, but as a voluntary witness. "All I did was gather public information and connect the dots," she explained, sliding neatly organized folders across the table. Marcus Wellington did sell classified data in 2009. The evidence was always there. It just needed to be presented in a way people couldn't ignore. Rodriguez flipped through the files. They weren't forgeries. They were real. Records from public archives, information requests, testimonies from veterans, even official board meeting recordings freely available to shareholders. Zara had simply highlighted the lines no one else had noticed. "You're 12 years old," Rodriguez said, shaking his head in disbelief. "And you just took down a billionaire with nothing but open records and determination." Zara smiled faintly for the first time in weeks. "My dad always said the truth has a way of surfacing. Sometimes it just needs someone willing to dig in the right places." Meanwhile, Marcus sat in a federal holding cell, realizing the brutal irony. He had underestimated not just a girl, but the daughter of the man he'd betrayed. She hadn't destroyed him with lies. She had destroyed him with the truth he thought would stay buried forever. 6 months later, Marcus unfolded a newspaper in his prison bunk. The headline made his stomach twist. 13-year-old receives Civilian Medal of Honor for exposing billion-dollar military corruption. The photo showed Zara, now 13, shaking hands with the Secretary of Defense. She wore a simple blue dress, a calm smile on her face as cameras flashed. The article praised her investigative methods, crediting her with saving taxpayers over $2.3 billion by uncovering fraudulent contracts. Marcus stared out at the prison yard, the whispers of other inmates echoing around him. The man who once commanded an empire was now nothing more than another inmate in an orange jumpsuit. 1,000 miles away, Zara sat in the Grand Library of Princeton University, where she had earned a full scholarship to study law and computer science. At 13, she was the youngest student in the university's history, but she didn't look nervous. She was used to being underestimated. "Zara Jackson to room 204, the loudspeaker called. It was time for her monthly press conference. In the packed media room, the first question came instantly. "Zara, do you feel any regret for the downfall of 3 executives?" She adjusted the microphone, her voice steady. "I didn't cause their arrests. They destroyed themselves the moment they betrayed the trust of an innocent man. I only revealed what was already true." Another reporter asked, "What about the $100 million Veterans Fund Wellington announced?" "The fund still exists," Zara replied calmly, "but now it's run by real veterans, not someone trying to buy forgiveness. In just 6 months, it has helped 847 families. Ironically, it was the best thing Marcus Wellington ever did, even if he created it for the wrong reasons." A veteran journalist raised his hand slowly. "Zara, what's next for you?" "Zara, many people say you're too young to carry so much emotional weight. How do you deal with that?" For the first time, Zara hesitated, and in that moment, the cameras caught not the brilliant strategist who had dismantled billionaires, but simply a 13-year-old girl who had lost her father too soon. "My father taught me," she said softly, "that the best way to honor someone you love isn't to weep endlessly over their absence, but to build a world where the injustice that hurt them can never hurt anyone else." Back in prison, Marcus Wellington sorted through his weekly mail. Most envelopes were venom, hate letters, failed appeals, desperate offers from lawyers, but one stood out, plain, unmarked. Inside was a single photo: Lieutenant Michael Jackson, in uniform, smiling proudly. On the back, a short note written in neat cursive: "He died knowing the truth would surface. Thank you for proving he was right." It wasn't signed, but Marcus knew exactly who had sent it. 3 years later, Zara Jackson became the first person to graduate with dual degrees in law and computer science at just 16. Her groundbreaking thesis, an AI system designed to detect corruption in government contracts, was immediately adopted by the Department of Defense. Marcus Wellington, meanwhile, remained in his cell halfway through his 25-year sentence. Occasionally, he'd spot Zara's name in the prison paper, winning tech awards, giving lectures on digital ethics, founding an NGO that taught homeless youth how to code. The girl who once cried, "Don't get in the car," had grown into the young woman whose name had become synonymous with justice through technology. Marcus once thought redemption could be purchased with $100 million, but he learned the hard way. Some debts can only be paid with the truth, and underestimating a determined child is the kind of mistake even billionaires cannot afford to make. If this story of intelligence defeating arrogance has inspired you, subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales of how justice always finds a way, even when all hope seems lost. And remember, sometimes the most unlikely person is exactly the one who will change your life forever.